What happens when Hollywood royalty steps into the lion's den of daytime TV? When Julia Roberts, America's eternal sweetheart, walks into a studio expecting warmth and applause, only to face a verbal ambush from the sharpest tongue in television? What unfolded wasn't just an interview. It was a clash so raw, so shocking, that the cameras barely captured the weight of the moment. Before we dive into the video, please like and subscribe and comment. Now let's get back to the video. Because what you're about to relive isn't just gossip or entertainment, it's a front row seat to the unraveling of a television spectacle that left millions stunned. The morning began with all the polish and charm you'd expect. The studio lights gleamed like spotlights on a red carpet. The audience buzzed with anticipation, and then she appeared, Julia Roberts herself. Dressed in a flowing emerald gown that shimmered under the stage lights, her trademark smile seemed to ignite the entire room. The crowd erupted in thunderous applause, clapping, cheering, some even standing to catch a glimpse of the woman whose presence has captivated generations. Julia waved gracefully, her red hair catching the light as she moved, and for a moment it felt like magic had been bottled inside that studio. The panel welcomed her with open arms, or at least most of them did. Whoopi Goldberg's voice boomed warmly. Sarah Haynes leaned forward with genuine admiration, and Sonny Hostin greeted her with wide smiles and friendly questions. Julia laughed easily, that iconic laugh that has defined her career, sprinkling stories and anecdotes that charmed both the hosts and the audience. For those first few minutes, it was everything a Julia Roberts appearance should be: joyous, captivating, and disarmingly natural. But then, there was Joy Behar. Sitting just a little differently from the rest of the panel, her body angled back in her chair, lips curled into a smirk that felt more like a warning than a smile. While the others gushed and engaged, Joy's eyes stayed locked on Julia with a sharpness that cut right through the laughter. The audience couldn't know it yet, but something dangerous was brewing. "Julia, welcome back to The View," Whoopi said warmly, setting the stage. "It's always such a pleasure to have you here." Julia answered graciously, her laughter filling the air. "Thank you so much for having me. I love being here with you all. The energy is always wonderful. The exchange was perfect, the moment flawless. But beneath it all, Joy was waiting, almost coiled, ready to strike." The first few questions rolled smoothly. Sarah asked about Julia's latest project, Sonny inquired about family life, and Julia answered with poise, humor, and ease. Each answer only deepened the audience's affection, drawing laughter, applause, and even a few gasps of admiration. Yet the camera occasionally cut to Joy, and her silence grew, louder with every passing second. Then came the moment. "You know, Julia," Joy said suddenly, slicing through Sarah's words like a blade. The room froze. "I've been watching your career for a long time. Don't you ever get tired of playing the same character over and over again?" The words landed like a thunderclap. The energy of the studio shifted instantly. Gasps rippled through the audience as Julia's smile faltered for the briefest of seconds. She recovered quickly, letting out a soft laugh, though her eyes revealed just a flicker of unease. "I'm not sure what you mean, Joy," Julia replied carefully. "I've always tried to take on a variety of roles throughout my career." But Joy wasn't finished. She leaned forward, her grin sharp and unrelenting. "Oh, come on. The pretty woman, the romantic lead, the girl next door with the big smile. It's the same thing in every movie. Don't you think audiences deserve more from someone with your supposed talent?" The silence in the studio was deafening. Even Whoopi shifted uncomfortably, interjecting quickly. "Joy, I think Julia has shown incredible range in her filmography." But Joy brushed it aside, refusing to let go. "I mean, let's be honest here," Joy continued, her tone dripping with condescension. "You've made a career out of being America's sweetheart. But what happens when America gets tired of sweet? What happens when they want something real?" Julia's entire posture changed. Her back straightened, her expression hardened, and that famous smile disappeared completely. In that instant, the audience saw not the actress from the big screen, but the woman underneath, and she was ready to defend herself. "I think my work speaks for itself, Joy," Julia said, her voice firm but still measured. "I've always tried to bring authenticity to every role I play." Authenticity? Joy let out a laugh that wasn't joyous at all. It was sharp, cruel, like glass shattering on the studio floor. "Is that what we're calling it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've been playing the same version of yourself for 30 years. The atmosphere shifted again, now tense, now electric, the kind of tension that makes every camera operator lean forward, every producer scramble, and every audience member freeze in place. Julia's eyes flickered with fire, but before she could respond, Sunny desperately tried to redirect. "Julia, tell us about your upcoming projects. I know you have some exciting things in the works." But Joy wasn't done, not even close. Joy cut straight through Sunny's attempted pivot like a knife. Her voice hardened, her eyes narrowing as she leaned forward. "Actually, let's talk about something else," she said, almost gleefully. "Let's talk about privilege. Let's talk about how easy it is to maintain a perfect image when you've never had to face real adversity." The Bahi audience gasped audibly, and Julia's face shifted in an instant. Gone was the diplomatic composure. Instead, her eyes flashed with controlled fury. "Excuse me," Julia said sharply, her voice low but unmistakably firm. "You heard me," Joy replied, emboldened by the silence that hung in the room. "You've lived a charmed life, Julia. Born beautiful, discovered young, handed success on a silver platter. What do you know about struggle? What do you know about the real world that the rest of us live in every day?" The audience sat stunned, their anticipation so thick it felt like the air itself had stopped moving. Julia drew in a slow breath, trying to maintain her calm, but her jaw tightened. "Joy, I think you're making very unfair assumptions about my life," Julia said, her tone steady but layered with an edge of steel. "You don't know the challenges I've faced or the journey I've lived." "Don't I?" Joy shot back instantly, her smirk widening. "Because from where I'm sitting, your biggest challenge has been choosing which mansion to live in." The room erupted in nervous laughter from a few scattered audience members, but the majority sat frozen, clearly uncomfortable with how far this was going. Whoopi leaned forward, trying to shut it down. "Joy, I think we need to—" But Joy cut her off, her voice rising over everyone else's. "No, Whoopi. I think it's time someone asked the hard questions. I think it's time we stop pretending this perfect princess act is anything other than what it really is. A carefully constructed lie." The camera zoomed in on Julia's face. Her famous smile was gone, replaced with a pale, stony expression. Yet her voice, though strained, didn't waver. "I've never pretended to be perfect, Joy. I've been open about my mistakes and my growth as a person." Joy laughed again, a cold, biting sound that cut straight through the tension. "Is that what we're calling it? Because what I see is a sanitized version of your life, carefully approved by your publicists. Tell me, Julia, when was the last time you showed the world the real Julia Roberts? Not the polished product, not the movie star, the real woman." The other hosts sat frozen, exchanging glances filled with dread. The camera operators adjusted their shots, sensing that this was turning into television history. Julia's voice finally betrayed a flicker of strain. "I came here to talk about my work," she said, her tone firmer now, "and to connect with your audience, not to be personally attacked." "Oh, is that what this is? An attack?" Joy leaned back, feigning innocence while her smirk grew sharper. "I thought this was just honesty. Isn't that what talk shows are supposed to be about? Honesty?" Julia leaned forward now, her composure cracking for the first time. Her voice carried a tremor of anger. "There's a difference between honesty and cruelty, Joy. There's a difference between asking tough questions and deliberately trying to hurt someone." The studio audience erupted in a mix of applause and gasps. Joy only smiled wider, clearly enjoying the chaos. "Hurt someone?" she mocked, her tone dripping with condescension. "Sweetheart, if a few honest observations hurt your feelings, maybe you're not as strong as you pretend to be." The insult cut like a blade. Julia's face flushed, and for a split second, her eyes brimmed with something raw and unguarded. The entire studio seemed to hold its breath, waiting for her response. Then, Julia's voice dropped to a dangerously quiet tone. "Strong? You want to talk about strength, Joy? Let me tell you something about strength. Strength is sitting here while you tear me down for your own amusement. Strength is refusing to match your cruelty with cruelty of my own." Joy's eyes gleamed with twisted delight. "Oh, now we're getting somewhere. There's the fire. There's the Julia Roberts hiding under all that fake sweetness. Tell me, Julia, how does it feel to finally drop the act?" "This isn't an act," Julia shot back, her voice rising. "This is me trying to maintain dignity in the face of your unprovoked hostility." "Unprovoked?" Joy scoffed. "Everything I've said has been fair game. You're a public figure. You put yourself out there. You open yourself up to criticism. That's the deal." Sarah finally spoke up, her voice trembling as she looked ready to crawl under the table. "Maybe we should take a quick break," she suggested weakly. "No breaks!" Joy barked, waving her hand dismissively. "We're just getting started. Let's talk about your marriages, Julia. 3 marriages, wasn't it? That's not exactly the fairy tale image you like to project, is it?" The studio gasped as if a lightning bolt had struck the room. Whoopi's face turned to stone. "Joy, that is completely inappropriate," she said firmly, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Is it?" Joy pressed on with reckless abandon. "She talks about love in every interview, makes movies about finding a soulmate, but her real-life track record tells a very different story, doesn't it?" Julia's hands trembled now, whether from anger or heartbreak, no one could tell. Her voice was low, quaking with restrained fury. "My personal relationships are just that, just personal. They have nothing to do with why I'm here today." "Oh, but they do," Joy insisted, her voice venomous. "They show the truth behind the image. They show the gap between the brand and the reality. They prove that maybe, just maybe, you're not the expert on love you pretend to be in all those rom-coms." Julia's voice snapped like a whip. "I have never pretended to be an expert on anything. I'm an actress. I play characters. That's my job." Joy let out another harsh laugh, throwing her head back as if savoring her own. "Cruelty. Right, characters. But the problem is you never stop playing them, do you? Even now, sitting here, you're still performing. When do we get to meet the real Julia Roberts?" Julia's eyes burned as she shot back, her voice trembling but powerful. "You want real joy? This is real. This humiliation, this hurt, this cruelty, this is as real as it gets. And if this is your idea of honesty, then it says a lot more about you than it does about me." The audience erupted into applause, some standing, others booing Joy. The hosts sat frozen. And Joy? Joy just smiled, as if she had gotten exactly what she wanted. The tension in the studio was unbearable now, like a storm about to break. Julia's voice quivered, but grew stronger with each word. "You want reality, Joy? Reality is this. You've spent the last 20 minutes trying to tear me down in front of millions of people, not to spark conversation, not to entertain, but to humiliate me. And I will not sit here and be your target any longer." Joy leaned forward, unrelenting, her tone almost gleeful. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. This isn't humiliation, it's truth. Maybe the real problem is that you can't handle the truth when it's aimed at you instead of in some carefully scripted role." The audience gasped, some even shouting in protest. Whoopi slammed her hand on the table. "Joy, that's enough," she barked. But Joy ignored her, eyes locked on Julia like a predator refusing to let its prey escape. Julia unhooked her microphone, her trembling hands finally steady with resolve. "No, Whoopi. It's not enough. It's too much. This isn't an interview. This is character assassination, and I won't participate in it anymore." Joy's smirk faltered for the first time, her voice rising desperately. "Oh, come on, Julia. Don't run away just because you can't handle tough questions." Julia turned back sharply, her voice slicing through the air. "Tough questions are one thing. This was cruelty. This was bullying. And yes, Joy, that's exactly what you are, a bully hiding behind the word journalist." The word bully hung heavy in the air, the audience gasping as though they had been struck themselves. For the first time, Joy looked rattled, her face flushing crimson. "I am not a bully," she shouted defensively, but her voice cracked, betraying her. "Then maybe it's time someone told you the truth," Julia replied, her voice strong despite the tears in her eyes. "There's a difference between being provocative and being cruel, and today you crossed that line in front of the entire world." The studio was dead silent now, the weight of Julia's words pressing down like a hammer. Even the camera operators hesitated, unsure if they should keep filming such raw destruction. Joy tried to regain control, her voice venomous. You know what's cruel? Selling people a fantasy, pretending life is perfect, pretending you're perfect when the rest of us live in reality. Julia turned back one last time, her face pale but defiant. I've never claimed to be perfect. I've only ever tried to do my job, to entertain people, to give them hope, maybe even joy for a few hours. If that offends you, that says more about you than it does about me. And with that, Julia Roberts walked off the set. The audience roared, some applauding, some booing, but everyone electrified by what they had just seen. Whoopi buried her face in her hands, Sarah looked near tears, and Sunny shook her head in disbelief. Joy stood frozen, breathing heavily, her smirk gone, her eyes darting nervously as though she finally realized the weight of what had just happened. In front of millions of viewers, she hadn't just provoked a guest, she had provoked Hollywood's most beloved actress into walking out. The screen cut abruptly to commercial, but the damage was irreversible. By the time the cameras stopped rolling, the audience was buzzing with disbelief, whispering that they had just witnessed the moment Joy Behar's career might have crossed a line she could never come back from. And that's the controversy that will haunt television for years. Did Joy expose the truth, or did she expose herself? What a moment to witness Julia Roberts walking off live television after one of the most brutal confrontations in daytime history, and Joy Behar left standing in the wreckage. But now it's your turn. Do you think Joy went too far, or was she just doing her job? Comment your thoughts down below because I want to hear from you. And don't forget, like this video, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more explosive showdowns you won't see anywhere else.